Welcome to Everything a Rodeo, where we separate champions from the rest of the crowd.
We'll take you down the trail of someone's life, a long-haul tour rodeo, and our everyday adventures.
So brace yourself,
Because it's fixing to be a wild ride.
We're your hosts,
Nace Renfrey
and Cody Stanley.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Everything Rodeo Podcast. This is part 2 of our podcast with Mr. Jeff Lee. We decided to make this a 2-part podcast because after all the good stories came really great conversation about our walk here and us making it in this crazy world. So let's get right into it.
No, I'm honored to be here. I've seen this thing grow from the start and how you guys have developed it. You do a wonderful thing.
Appreciate that.
I take great enjoyment, great pride in performing, whether I'm behind the microphone or whether I'm putting on something. I'm thankful and grateful to have a wife in Jerica. Rodeo life in general is just tough on marriages. Rodeo is really tough on marriages. And this will be our 17th, 18th year of being married. All the highs, all the lows that we've gone through, but always a rock beside each other. I can probably count less on fingers on one hand how many times we've really had an argument. Mm-hmm. Never really had an argument, never really held a grudge. And to be equally yoked with a wife that has a vision to support you, I would not have achieved half the things I have without her because, you know, after our first year of marriage, her mom got murdered. You know, start young family and you're starting out, to lose Janice, that was a tough thing. And not a lot of people, we don't go out and my wife is a rock hard, steady person. And to go through that experience of losing such a beautiful person in her mother, who was just a godly person. I remember when we first started dating, I said, I don't want to meet your parents. I don't want to meet your mother. I don't, and we're just dating. And the first time I met her mother, unconditional love. And I hadn't experienced that in quite the way Janice gave it to us. Mm-hmm. And to see how, Janice was never a rich person, but she was rich in character and rich in that community that she lived in. And she touched so many people's lives that I remember at her funeral, at her visitation, over 4,000 people, they had to get 10 books for people to sign.
Wow.
Because so many people came through because of Janice's impact of who she was as a person. And that was tough, to lose. At that time, her father had passed away when she was younger, so I never got to meet the man. Mm-hmm. But spending that time with Janice and getting to see the changes that my wife had to go through that, and then just to be so steady in life. I think a lot of announcers' wives, especially probably rightfully so, get a bad rap for playing music because they're not good. They just punch buttons. And my wife has, not to toot her horn because she'll never do it, pretty good at it.
She is.
She has a quiet, natural knack of knowing how to create an energy that an announcer can feed off of, that a clown can feed off of, because, let's be honest, nowadays music and entertainment industry sets the tone of your show.
Yeah.
You can have a great event, but if you don't have anything backing that, I don't care where you're at, if you don't have that tone backing you, the show's flat. It doesn't matter how funny the clown is, doesn't matter how good the announcer is. And so I'm really proud of her. I'm really proud of what she is as a mother, as a wife, and being able to raise 3 good young kids in the world today. It's tough. It's tough being a man. It's tough being a father. And we are, time and time again, we are confirmed in what we believed so long ago, that when we're out with our 3 young boys, how many compliments we get. Or we see other kids in the restaurants or other places, and our young men are good gentlemen. And that's partly to do with our community that we live in, our neighbors, our friends and our families, and the community that you create around you. All 3 of my boys are so different. Cody loves sports. Colt is the comedian and the artist. And Cord is just, he from day one has wanted to be a cowboy and nothing else. And I never pushed rodeo on him because I see that at the IFYR all so many times, is the kid rodeoing or is mom and dad rodeoing through the kid? And you see a lot of both there. And I never wanted that for my kids. I never was forced to do it. I had a natural love for it. But my two older boys, they got the rougher side of rodeo. They got to be the road warriors, and they got burned out. And when Cord kind of came along, life was a lot steadier for us. And he just, every day, long sleeves, cowboy hat, that's all he ever wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Every night to this day, it's Chris Ledoux. He's jumping. He's at the NFR on the trampoline every night in our front yard. Mm-hmm. And that kid gets, J.B. Mooney is sending videos. Cody Webster sent him videos. Josh Frost sent him videos. Just that personal, little personal, hey, Cord, what's up? And Cord always sends a video back, Hey, what's up, Cody Webster? Hope you do good out there at the NFR. Hey, Josh Frost, glad you're out there with my dad, And so he gets such a unique environment, and he's just, I think we were at the PBR, and one of those guys at Lamar was like, dude, that kid is like the old man at the sale barn. And that's how he is. That's his personality. Yeah. And I'm very fortunate to have been blessed to know that it's not by me, by my hand, it's by God's hand. Amen. And once I got smart enough to realize that when I take control of my life, I create chaos. Mm-hmm. And God will take that chaos and create tranquility and peace if you'll know how to let Him take control. Right. And I've been blessed with a lot of good people. One of the points I wanted to make is being surrounded by finding rugged men of faith in your life. There's a lot of people that have faith but are soft, and that's okay. That works for you. But as a man, to be battle hardened in life and be prepared for what life throws at you, especially in today's world, where it's wilder and crazier than ever, and trying to raise 3 young men and try to keep them on the straight and narrow path. Yeah. Constantly remind my boys that, look, not every kid is going to have their mom and dad in their life, and that's okay. But not every mom and dad have the energy or the time or the wherewithal or the care to love their kid, to take care of their kid. And that's a sad state of affairs where we're at. But it's tough. It goes back to being tough as a father to discipline yourself. You have 3 young men that you're responsible for that are fixing. My oldest is 4 years away from being out there in the real world. Mm-hmm. And so what have I created? What lessons have I taught them? What lessons have they been taught by their community that surrounds them? And are you surrounded by rugged men of faith, rugged men of character that you can balance your life out with? And so I've been extremely blessed in that, in all aspects of life, not just with rodeo, but other professional life, and just learning how to take those lessons that you pick up from those guys. They may not, the best stories in the Bible aren't the best characters of people. That's all the Bible is about. It's people of varying character and learning how to walk in faith with God, or learning those lessons. And so you come into contact with people that, man, you would never think you could pick up a lesson or learn a lesson from them. And just by being a little bit more quieter and keeping your ears a little more open, you'll pick up some things from those people and learn. So I've been blessed to be in a position I'm in. It takes, look, we've got a great life. We've built a great house. We've got nice things, but all that can go away tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And me and Jericho are constantly reminding each other that can go away tomorrow, but it's okay. As long as we have each other, God will provide.
I definitely agree with that. And, God, obviously, He has a huge hand in everything, especially everything that you said, but you've also created the character that you are. That's allowed you to, and presented opportunity for you to meet a woman that has raised 3 amazing kids, and you have put yourself surrounded yourself with the people that make you a better man and make you want to be a better father. And so, I know it's hard as a man sometimes to give yourself credit, but, I see it in you, and like Dusty, just anybody, really anybody. That's what I love the podcast and all this, is just because it allows me to have a second perspective on others' lives. And I think, when we started making funny TikToks and all this stuff, which we love, and glad that it's invited people in here, to be able to, because that could have been the whole reason that we did this thing. And having a podcast is not super easy. I mean, we have a lot of equipment. If we go on the road, it takes lots of hours of editing and all sorts of stuff. But to me, we've had so many people reach out, your podcast, I've been in such a dark place, and your podcast always brings the spirit, or it always brings, whatever. And it's just the opportunity that we have to have people like you, in our life. Like, I've been blessed to know you, and you've given me so many opportunities as a videographer to grow, and just as a man, watching you with your kids, and then the impact that you have on Dusty, and me seeing that and how it affected him. It's just, kind of what you were saying. One thing I've always thought of is like, I can only do so much with my life, but God can do more with my life than I can.
Absolutely.
And I think it's hard sometimes. I feel like for a long time in my life, I was like, how do I allow God to do more with my life than me doing my own thing? But I feel like as I've been more open to hearing him and taking time to think and ponder, because there's so many distractions nowadays, and I feel like you're always going to run into the things that distract you, like dating the wrong girls or being around the wrong people, or money, or whatever it is. And it's like, if you take the time to focus and understand what character you want to become, those are the type of people that are going to be around you. You're going to influence them, they're going to influence you, and it allows you to be able to sit here and almost bear testimony kind of what your life, and you're an incredible man, and I admire that about you. And there's Dusty, we've been talking about it so much, but at the end of the podcast, he thanked his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And really, honestly, without good women and good support system, us men are so easy to fall short. And and I'm grateful to my mom. Has been a huge example. I've always wanted to marry someone that had characteristics like my mother and my sisters, and just the people that I've my friends' wives and things like that. And so it's not a lot of guys don't want to talk about that kind of stuff, you know, but the reality of it is the happiness that you'll have having not gotten into maybe 5 arguments with your wife. Like it comes down to being real and showing the true character.
Well, there's also such a I call it Mr. Lonely. You see a lot of guys out there, they're running wild, they're running hard, but they're running from God. And there's such a peace in heart and peace in mind that I realized, probably it might have taken me 10 years in our marriage. It's easy to go to your basic instincts as a human being to the bottom denominator. It's easy to be bad. It's easy to do the wrong thing because it's the easiest thing to do.
Exactly.
And then I was challenged to speak at a young man's funeral as a bull rider that came to a lot of my events, and he passed away kind of tragically, had a medical accident and died in a fishing accident. And his mother and his sisters, who I have a tremendous respect for, had said, "Hey, we want you to speak at the funeral." And I mean, this is at a big church up here. And it was the family made a huge impact in the community, and so did he. And he made an impact on my life just through how his character was. And they said, "We want you to speak on the word of character." Ooh, that's a heavy weight to be put on, to get up and speak about character in front of all these people. And that was one of the greatest challenges that was ever put on me. And I thanked them after that to really challenge me to dig deeper into the Bible, find, because really that's what God wants you to grow into, is that true character you can be through him. You're never going to be Jesus, but there's a shining example, and there is a pathway for forgiveness. So look, you're going to make mistakes in your life. It's easy to stray off a little bit, but he's always going to be there, and it's not a death sentence. He's there for you and to be there for you. And so that's why I say being of character, because it's easy, as we all do it, scroll on Instagram, scroll on TikTok. It is all so many of these the things that are bad environment, right, that you can pick up there. I warned my son, when he went back to public school this year, you're fixing to walk into a different environment than what you were in. You were in a very nice bubble there at Sacred Creek Academy, but they had strong men of character, strong women of character in faith. I said, it's going to be a little different. You're now back in the general population.
Sitting at the back of the bus.
Yeah, you're back in a place where not every kid has a loving parent.
Yep.
Not every kid has a strong father or a strong male role model. I think there should be a strong male role model, and there has to be a strong female model, and they have different roles. And I think in today's time, a lot of men have not stepped up to be a father.
Yeah.
And to be there and stick with it. And it's so easy to go, I'm going to start over again. You know, it'd been easy. You know, it's easy to do that or to think that way. It's not easy.
Not easy to do.
It's not easy to do, but when you actually stick with it, it was funny because me and Jericho were having this conversation, and we were out. I was out, and I'd ran into some old friends, and they were still the same as they were 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, whoa, we stuck with it. We did the right thing. And we were kind of talking about, everybody says be consistent, persistent, consistency in what you're doing. And, it'll work out. And it has, over time it grows and it snowballs. And you just kind of look at those people and you go, man, where'd you stop? Where'd you stop at your... In 2 books, I always tell this to anybody that listens, beyond the Bible, 2 books that really changed my life. I was at a point in my life where I'm running 7 figures through my bank account, putting on events, but I'm renting a house. I don't have anything of my own. The winters are getting tight until we get into production season, and I'm really frustrated. And one of the best things I ever heard was a guy named Andy Andrews, a motivational Christian speaker, said, you are where you are because of your best thinking. And if you're best, you don't like where you're at, maybe your thinking isn't the best. Maybe you need to change your thinking. Mm-hmm. And I had a good friend, Cody Cooper, send me a little clip of the butterfly effect about Andy Andrews. And it's a good video. I watch it every year on YouTube. It's 7 Habits, 7 Ways to Grow, something like that. Don't quote me, but it's out there. Look up Andy Andrews. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hour of him doing a motivational kind of comedy, but Christian speaking to this audience. And I watched that, and it was truly motivating. And took me down a path as a 30-year-old man of something's wrong with my thinking. I'm blocked here. And Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a real basic read, but it is a life changer for me. And then beyond that, Think, Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill. Those 2 books set me on a path. I don't like to read, but when I picked up those books, and there's always a teacher there when the student's ready, and I just wasn't ready until that point in my life.
Yep. And
when I started those, and I started actively writing those things down, actively following those things, because any big shot, anybody that's successful that says, hey, what books should you read? Those 2 books are at the top of their list or somewhere on their top 10 reading list. And so I always tell people, those 2 books, if you will take the time to read them, it will move mountains. And it moved mountains in my life. Yeah. And they go hand in hand with faith. And so that's the only piece of real advice I can give somebody that maybe they're listening. Like, I'm in a place where I want to grow. I want to learn. I want to, I had great parents, but they weren't business people. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have everything that we have, all this access to, all this information, but so much is wasteful information. Where do you go? And I mean, that book is 100 years old and it still applies today. The Bible's millennia old, and it still applies today.
Yeah. Kind of going back to like becoming a father. So I became a father this year, and the whole thought of being so scared of bringing a kid into this world.
Yeah.
But kind of going back on what you were saying, like it's not what this world is.
Nope.
It's what we can raise the kid in.
What you create.
What we can create the narrative that they live around.
Correct.
So it's like one thing that I hate when the news is on in the house.
Yeah.
Like,
I haven't watched the news in forever.
We're living with my mother and father-in-law right now while we're building their house.
Yeah.
And I wake up every morning and the news is on. And I walk in there and I change the channel.
Yep.
And I haven't been a man enough to tell them that, hey, when my daughter is in this house, I don't want that junk played because it's just feeding into my daughter's life.
Correct. What you pour into them.
And what is on the news right now, I definitely don't want on in my daughter's mind.
Yep.
Like, good.
And that's something I've learned is like the first 5-6 months is where most kids learn their habits, how they think throughout their life. Like, it's crazy that a 3 and 4 month old like
soaks up so much.
They're a sponge.
Yeah.
And I've looked up to you as a dad because the way your boys are like so polite and they're the same everywhere you see them.
Yep.
But like this conversation has made me like, hey, I need to stand up, be a rugged man of faith and say, hey, I know this is your house, and I'm thankful for you letting us stay here while we're building ours, but while your granddaughter's in here, we're not going to watch the news. You can watch the news if you want somewhere else after she leaves, or you can listen to it on your phone, but can we not do that while she's here?
When's the last time you've turned on the news and it was good?
Yeah.
Never.
And so even before COVID, I got caught up in the Fox News. And then you watch CNN, and then you realize that, wait a second, they're playing a fiddle to the crowd's tune that they want to hear.
Well, and going back to talking what we talked over dinner of how what you seen on the media, and then you went into the same town that was rioted like a day earlier, and it was completely clean. There was nothing going on.
No signs there, And so, what negativity you let into your life, you have to take control of that. Most people let life happen to them. And we all go through those stages of just trying to survive, and you wake up and you're just trying to get from point A to point B. And, but so many people have an idea for the weekend. They don't have an idea from 5 years from now. Tony Robbins, tremendous motivational speaker, but I pick up tidbits that really catch me. That I go, oh man, it's like a light bulb, an epiphany goes off. Most people overestimate what they can get done in 1 year and underestimate what they can get done in 5. So most people have a very short-term thinking and don't look at the bigger picture. And so be persistent in your goals, but be flexible in the measures in which you take to get there. Because sometimes your blueprint in life of where you're going to, that's where I got hung up in rodeo. Like, it needs to go A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And if it doesn't go that way, man, my night was ruined. Well, it may have jumped around a little bit, but we started with A and B and C, and we ended at X, Y, and Z. It might have got jumbled in a little bit in the middle.
You might have had the elemental P in there.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't always control everything. But if you're persistent in your goals, you have to be flexible in the measures in which you get there.
And you got to have the right mindset.
You do.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and I guess kind of going back to those people I was talking about, like, when you're 20, you live for the weekend, right? You just, living for the weekend. But as you mature and as you grow and as you start a family and you want to build some wealth or leave something for your family, you have to change that mindset of growth and to see people that are still my age and living for the weekend.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoa. And life throws some curveballs at some people.
Yeah.
Not everything is in your control, but never stop. Keep going. I've seen so many people that have lost everything and have come back time and time again. I have. I used to, when I put on events, I was really worried more about producing. I was so tied up into this thought of producing that God was there. It was a Bible that you read and you go to church and you're there, but I'm really focused on this. And it was almost like, a gambling addiction. I'm not a big gambler. I don't go to casinos. Me and Dusty, I talked about, it's the only time we sit down at a blackjack table and have fun with $300 for the whole week and sit there for 8 hours and just have fun with a group of guys.
Yeah.
So it's more about the experience and it's not about gambling.
Right.
But for me, putting on events, I started realizing that's a problem for me because I was really in a place where I was robbing Peter to pay Paul just to get to the next show, do the next thing. And I built my identity around me, Jeff Lee, events, my rodeo arena that I hauled, my events that I produced. And then when life threw you curveballs and you had to make some hard decisions, I realized when I sold my arena off, it was kind of heartbreaking because I thought that's who I was. Mm-hmm. That's who I was.
You lived your identity through
that
your things.
Yeah, and so it took me a while. It was kind of a quick epiphany for me, but it took me a while. A place that I used to go set an arena up at, and I do other things, and then I just showed up to announce, and you're kind of heartbroken. You're like, I used to set the arena up here, and I used to kind of make this kind of money, and then the night's done, and I'm driving home. And on the way home, I go, I don't miss this at all. I get to go home to my wife and my kids, and that's not who I am. Yeah, and so, yes, I produce events. Yes, I'm a rodeo announcer. But I think of myself as who I am at the house, who I am in God's eyes. Psalms. It was a cool little story. I picked out Zach Peterson was a bull rider Good bull rider, Great Lakes Circuits guy, did some leather work. Had him build me a new pair of announcing chaps a few years ago, and I really thought I put some thought into it. And I said, man, I want Psalms 1914. Yes, 1914 on the back. Oh Lord, and I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not a theological man, but yeah, and basically, oh Lord, let my words and my actions be pleasing in your eyes, O Redeemer. And so, as an announcer, I really took a leap of faith in my head, in my mindset of, let these words be your words, because if I'm having trouble, I know you're not, and that's going to flow through me.
Yeah.
And so this year in Cord School, Cord and my other boy are still going to Sager, and this year their scripture is 1914.
That's cool.
And Cord was like, that's Dad's scripture on the back of his chaps, and then the teacher's like, okay, I don't know what that means, but that's cool, you know. So, and I guess it kind of brings me back to how cool of a life that we get to experience in the rodeo, because we have literally traveled the United States with our kids. Mm-hmm. We get paid for family vacations.
You do. And
so many people only get that 2-week period in their work life to take time with their kids to go do stuff. And here we are getting to experience, we get to go to Florida, and it's on the same time as their spring break. So we go to Busch Gardens with them and see all kinds of cool stuff. I'll show you a picture of it later. It's a funny story, but maybe not for this thing. I'll tell it anyways. So my middle boy loves animals, loves everything. So Busch Gardens, if you've never been, it is a world-class zoo and theme park together. Great place to go. So first thing we get there, hey, before we hit the rides, let's do the animal part first. Mm-hmm. So we get on the train, and we're riding the train around. It's going about 5 miles an hour. Here's some giraffes, here's some other animals. And then we're way back, and these trains are long. We're way back in the back, and where people are standing up, and you're hearing the ooh and ah, and I'm looking out there. I'm like, man, that is the biggest rhino I've ever. Oh no, that's 2 rhinos, and they're making another rhino, and they're not stopping, and the train's not either. And from about me to you, the train's coming by, and I go, hey, Colt, click, got a picture. How rare is it that 2 extinct animals are procreating while you're there on the train ride with your kids? So that's the kind of humor. And I'm sending it to everybody. Oh my God, look at this, So just unique experiences like that that my son will never forget.
He'll never forget that. He'll tell his grandkids.
Yeah, so how fortunate are we in a rodeo world to get to travel the world, meet all these people, do what we love, get paid to do what we love. And whenever I started out, very young age in the rodeo business, my dad said, look, a lot of people have a hobby that they spend their money on. If you can go out and not lose money and you're having fun, you're ahead of a lot of people in this whole world. And I always took that, make a living, and I've found a niche to make a good living in the sport of rodeo and the world of rodeo. But how fortunate we of all these thousands of committees through all the associations that donate and volunteer their time to come together to put on entertainment for their audience, and they hire us to come do that for them.
Yeah.
And that is a very fortunate thing that we have in rodeo committees that truly keep the sport of rodeo alive. If you look at all the other professional sports, they are controlled by one organization. Now you have other organizations underneath them, little other things that offshoot them, but they have one major goal, and that's it. Now everybody wants to make it to the NFR and PRCA. There's a lot of guys that still can make a dang good living in the sport of rodeo and never make it to the NFR.
Exactly.
So we're so fortunate. When you take perspective, you look at the perspective of what the space you live in and where you create it, it's truly amazing.
It is. Yeah, we are blessed for sure. I mean, I more so have been blessed just by communicating and knowing folks, in the industry, at least. Like, I probably wouldn't even be filming rodeos if I hadn't met Cody, and I probably would have never reached out to certain people to try to get more opportunities, or even shown up at the rodeo with a camera. And then that's kind of how it started, honestly, with you. I showed up at the Rodeo of the Ozarks with my camera, and then you were like, hey, would you be interested in doing some videos? And
I started following you because you were putting out little tidbits. I'm like,
yeah.
How cool is it that you have there's other guys out there, Randy Corteri and some other guys that produce a video, have a unique perspective of not just some shot from the grandstands, but a real cinematic eye to captivate the audience, to captivate social media people to tune in and to draw in on this atmosphere of rodeo. And, rodeo in the Western culture, kind of a renaissance. I saw it. I lived through the 8-second era and, braided belts and Garth Brooks shirts and everybody showing up to the rodeo with their funky looking hat.
Yeah.
But it was good for rodeo, right? Those things are great for rodeo. You're good for the rodeo industry. You guys are great for the rodeo industry because you're bringing a new perspective in there. And yeah, there's a lot of other guys doing it with their perspective, but you're bringing your unique view and your camera eye and your ideas and your imaginations and creating something that just fun to watch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it. Is just freaking when was it? 2012, 2011. So forever ago. I mean
2014.
Yeah,
2015.
Just the thought of I never imagined I'd have a podcast.
Yeah.
Talking about rodeo or being in the industry.
That's like
and
we filmed a couple rodeos like Siloam and stuff, and Nace had called me one day and we was just talking, and I was like, hey, one of us mentioned a podcast, and I was like, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I remember you guys talking to me about it, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
And now
we had talked to you about it before we even started.
and now you're doing it.
Yeah.
And then you went out to Vegas last year, and then we're talking about, you guys going out again this year, and then just the perspectives of the unique stories you guys captured.
Right.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was our deal too. Is like Cody came from it, I didn't, but now I feel like I've been well welcomed, and it's been awesome just and more so learning by being involved.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never imagined my life what it would be like, and I look back at all the things that had to happen for me to be right where I'm at, and I know I'm exactly where I need to be. You know, and I look back and I'm like, God's a funny man, but He is incredibly intentional. Especially if you have the right mindset and you are trying to direct your life in accordance with His. It's incredible what can happen.
That's like one thing I want to say is when you say God's a funny man, everybody sees, the relationship with the Lord is it's like real serious.
Yep.
And so many people don't want to come to church or be a part of like the Lord because they think that they have to be serious all the time.
Yep.
I think God is the biggest jokester there is.
Well, I always say that you make plans in your life and God laughs.
Yes.
Because the plans you have are not His
Not
plans.
His plans.
So that's one of my favorite things is like, you make plans, God laughs.
Yeah.
Your plans are not my plans, and your ways are not my ways.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not as hard as everybody wants to make it.
Nope.
To be a Christian.
No, it's not.
It's a personal relationship that you can create and make whatever you want.
We're all human.
I think a lot of times too, and I'll get pretty deep here. Sometimes organized religion gets in the way of faith.
Yes.
And I've talked about this with a lot of my friends of strong faith, strong characters, men of faith, and that people go to those churches and they become part of that community, and somehow a little bit of them or a lot of them gets put into the faith of who's leading the church, and they have bad experiences. Look, we're human. We all suffer from the same condition. We're human.
Right.
And when you put your faith in a man, guess what? You're going to get let down.
Right.
You're going to get your feelings hurt. Things are going to happen. And a lot of people then associate that with God. God let me down. He didn't let
Absolutely
you down.
not.
God is the
You
man.
lost your way.
Well, it was just
Putting
like
a little
you
faith in a man.
You putting on productions.
Yep.
Like you put all your faith in the
In that.
productions, and it let you down.
Correct.
But after you realized that your faith was in God, not in the productions,
Yep.
your productions have
Grown tremendously.
tremendously, and you're doing
tenfold.
half of what you used to do.
Tenfold. I mean, I used to have 20 events a year and just be ragged at the end of it, and that's not what His plan was. And it was let's refine what you do. Let's find great locations that have potential, and let's make those tremendous, and I'll reward you. I'll reward you beyond your wildest imaginations, because Lord, you've given me more than I prayed for. This is what you wake up, whoa, you get to that point like I got more than I prayed for. What now? This is beyond what I could have imagined.
Right.
The things that I have, and I still want to grow that. But then you have to figure out, what's the next thing, God? Where can we go from here? I'm listening.
Yep.
I'm listening. Where can we go? So
some of God's greatest gifts are unanswered prayers.
Amen.
Like that song is to a T. Is exactly. There's so many I look back and I remember some things I prayed for back in the day when I was just an ignorant kid, and had those things happen, I would not be the man or sitting where I'm at.
I'm my wife. I can promise you that. Yeah. I've been equally yoked, and God created a woman out of her mother's. The woman I married is not the woman I have today. And that happens through time, but really quick after that first year and that loss of Janice, it changed something, losing that in a way, very dramatic way. But as I got older and we went through hard times, it would have been so easy for her to go, "You got a problem, I'm leaving. I'm out of here." Never once did she ever falter. Now, she may have thought about it, but she never vocalized it. And I can tell you that lady she's probably prayed for me more times than anybody, in her faith and her strong quietness of the way she is. Because I tell everybody, like when we're in the production room, when Jerica speaks, you better listen, because she's talking something important. And if she's opening her mouth, it's to a point where she knows she needs to talk, because she's very reserved about a lot of that stuff. And so unanswered prayers, you betcha. I dated a lot of girls in my life, and I thought, well, this is the one, and it wasn't the one. And God knew that that's the woman I needed in my life. And so I've been so blessed, and then have that peace of heart when you're gone on the road. I may be gone 2-3 weeks at a time. Now, I'm not hitting the road like some of these guys, gone for months at a time. But what kind of faith does that take for a woman to put in her man, and then to know that anytime you want, there's a bar around the corner, and the bar leads to something else, and it leads to something else. Now, I may have a beer after the rodeo, but I ain't going to the bar, guys. Nothing good happens at the bar for a married man. So. Yeah,
it's incredible. Yeah, amen to everything. It's well, I think a lot of great things have been said, and I love so many times nowadays. Everybody kind of just wants to talk about the weather or whatever else. It's things that are so easy to talk about, and I love that there's a community of men that are strong in faith, rugged in faith, as you said, and that are willing to talk about their feelings and get emotional. And it doesn't make you any less of a man. I feel like it actually makes you more of a man. And in my experience, just those type of people are the people I want to be associated with, because I feel it. I feel the energy. I know it's real. And more so just because I feel the spirit, when that happens. But I love the opportunity that this platform has given us to share our own beliefs and faith and the journey and how it has touched listeners' lives. And and one thing I always remembered is there's a lot of people that I've looked up to that have made crazy impacts in my life, and they never have ever known. And I know that there's people that look up to me and do the same thing. And so, I'm one thing you were saying earlier that kind of reminded me, my buddy told me this quote. He said, "The grass is greener where you water it." And there's always people saying the grass is greener on the other side. If you're thinking about whatever else and you're not putting the effort and the nutrients and the things that you are in control of, there's no outcome or anything that's going to be better. And
you're always going to be chasing the next thing.
Exactly. And so I would just, for myself, I can't control what's on the news, who wins the election, how someone's going to act, but I can control who I am as a person, what decisions I make, whether it's behind closed doors or in front of people, or what I say. And that's the biggest thing I would just invite everyone to do is the way the world becomes a better place is you becoming a better person and a better instrument in any situation, in God's hands, in your line of work, as a influencer, whatever we are these days. But
I think they've kicked us out of influencing.
I don't know. But I'm just grateful for you, Jeff, and the man you are, and the opportunity we've had to have this discussion. Part 2 of the podcast, I think, has been really good. We've had a lot of discussion that have turned into that, but I feel like we always just kind of get rushed with podcasts to kind of shut it down. So glad we were able to kind of chat. I know it's a little late and you got to drive back.
No, man, I enjoy this. I enjoy getting opportunity to talk. I get paid to talk for a living. but to be able to have real conversations and not an entertaining conversation
Right.
in that atmosphere, it's good.
Yeah.
You know, and it should happen more often. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you guys inviting me onto the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one thing that me and Cody are very stern about, is just what you're seeing right now is not just because the cameras are on. You know, like me and Cody have had some legit heart-to-hearts that have been the same things we've said on the podcast, or, you know, the way that we act when we're crazy and funny and singing is the same thing we are in the truck, you know, and it's just, I think if you can be yourself all around on same dude Saturday night as you are Sunday morning, that's how the difference is made. And so anyways, appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me on, guys.
Hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode, and help the kids for Christmas, man. Get them some toys.
Yeah, seriously. If you guys don't have something that you guys give to during Christmas, contact Jeff, because he don't take any of the proceeds. It's definitely not to lift him up. Like, you would never know that Jeff's is behind it. He just kind of helps organize it, and I'm
thankful for all the people all throughout the years. Every year they'll stop into the dealership.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I can't make it to the party, but here's a box of crowns. Here's some toys for the kids.
Helps,
and some of these people that it's a struggle for them, but they do it every year and give. And I'm so thankful for that opportunity. And then, you know, the peace of mind and the joy that you get, that, you know, you're not going to give that toy to that kid, but you know it's going to the right place. Mm-hmm. And it's just something that's kind of grown, and it's something we love to do. And it may never be as big as, you know, Cousin Eddie's with the RV again, but we always do it no matter what size. You know, there's still one kid out there that needs something. As long as we got one present for him, we're doing something.
Yep, for sure. Well, with all that being said, we appreciate y'all checking in, sticking around,
and listening to another episode of the Everything Rodeo Podcast. I want to thank Mr. Jeff Lee for coming on the show.
Thanks, Jeff.
Hey, they actually clapped and going out too.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
If you got a chance, take it. Take it while you got a chance. If you got a dream, chase it. 'Cause a dream